Hello and welcome. Today I'm doing a pork haul, which is going to be very similar, much shorter than one of the videos I did previously, which was a beef haul. That link is in the description. Today we're going to be talking about some of the reasons why pork is less expensive, a quick bit on the nutrition in pork, the impacts on the price of pork, and cooking pork. And then after that, we're going to find out what are in my boxes of pork. So let's do it. All right, why is pork so cheap? Because it is the cheapest meat on the market, save potentially chicken legs and chicken thighs. First of all, pork is really easy to raise. It takes a lot less human manual labor than it does to raise beef. Pigs also breed quickly, grow quickly, and don't require as much space as beef does. They also eat less, grow faster, and cost less to transport. The pork diet is relatively inexpensive and contains primarily soy and corn, which is also what is in a lot of our processed food to create filler. Of course, pasture-raised pork is always an option, but it's important to know that pork, just like with chickens, cannot eat a primarily grass diet. They need other things in their diet, such as grub worms and insects, and beetles and rice and mice and roots and bird eggs. Bottom line is pork cannot digest fiber very well. Hey pork, I know how you feel. Of course, with a pasture-raised pork, you're going to get a better tasting meat, but you're also going to be paying a little bit extra. And then raising pigs actually takes much less manpower than raising beef. So those are all things that impact the price of pork. Prices of pork in the US are between 89 cents and $1.34 per pound, or that's $1.97 to $2.95 per kilogram. Pork shoulder and pork loin are generally the cheapest cuts. Again, like I said before, after chicken legs and chicken thighs. Now, the price I paid for mine was $1.99. So I ordered this pig, and then within 2 weeks, they called me up. It was actually less than 2 weeks, but because it's so far away, it takes me a while to get things into my schedule to go get it. So it probably took more like a week. So after a week, they called and said, hey, your pork is ready. Now I paid, like I said, $1.99 per pound, which was, when it came out, was $187 for half a pig. A full pork will grow to be typically between 270 and 285 pounds. Now on to the nutrition. Like I said, we're moving fast because I want to see what's in these boxes so that I can actually start eating it. Pork is rich in high-quality protein, vitamins, and minerals, but it can also be high in fat and cholesterol. It really depends on the cut we're talking about. Some pork cuts, such as spare ribs, and that used for bacon, which is basically the belly, are high in saturated fatty acids, which can increase the risk of developing heart problems, obesity, and other long-term illnesses. However, lean pork, such as center cut and sirloin pork chops and pork loin, are very, very lean and is just as good for you as lean beef and chicken. Unless, of course, you're breading it and frying it. Just like with anything, often moderation makes the difference between something that's healthy and something that's unhealthy. But let's talk about, really quickly, the things that could impact price. One thing that can impact the price of pork are regulations surrounding the living conditions of the animals. Recently in California, they passed Proposition 2, which requires more space per animal, and that will increase the price of pork. If you're in California and you've noticed the price of your pork has increased significantly outside of the regular inflation and greedflation that we've been experiencing, please leave me a message in the comments below. So obviously one of the other impacts that can cause the price of pork to increase is disease among the populations of pork on the farms, which can decrease the amount of pork that's available overall and may or may not decimate pork populations. This happens also in chickens quite often. And then, of course, there's the climate impact on the food that the pork eats. So in drought, the price of corn and soy could increase, which increases the price that the pigs are going to cost overall because it increases the price of raising them and producing them. So with disease impact, we're talking about the animal welfare and the situations in which they're living in, because oftentimes when you put animals in a very compact space, it increases the likeliness that diseases will spread. However, pigs are clean by nature, and often while raised in large manufacturing plants, they are in filthy conditions, which increases animal disease and leads to unsafe food in the supply chain. So if you're concerned about something like that, I encourage you to look into where the pork you consume comes from and the environment in which it was raised. It should be noted that there are safeguards in place to try to ensure the safety and cleanliness of the animals and the environment in which they live in. However, the success of those programs and those attempts always hinges on the adequate funding of departments such as the USDA. Smithfield Foods, which is a subsidiary of WH Group, owns 66% of the pork producers in the United States. While pork production in the United States is a very important economic contributor to the GDP of the country, WH Group, which owns Smithfield, is owned by China and has been since 2013. Iowa is the #1 pork producer in the United States, followed by Minnesota and North Carolina. Next, we're gonna move on to cooking, and then we're gonna check out my boxes. Most cooking falls into two groups: dry or moist cooking methods, and pork can be cooked using methods in both of those camps. If you're interested on the difference between
Dry and moist
cooking methods, there's a link in my description from a couple videos that I did a couple years ago when I was doing my boot camp series about the differences between moist and dry cooking methods. While pork is the most widely consumed animal in the world, the Jewish and Muslim faiths prohibit eating pork through the religious law. The grounds for that has usually been that pork is dirty, and like I've stated, pigs are naturally clean animals compared to many others. Food sanitation has become much more developed since pork was considered a dirty meat due to religious text, and is now a much safer meat to eat, with exceptions for wild pigs and boars, which still can harbor parasites and diseases. Regardless, it's always best practice to follow good food safety and sanitation practices and cook your meat to an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius to kill off any pathogens or bacteria that might be in the meat. I do have 2 food safety and sanitation videos on this channel. Those links will be in the description. One is specifically on bacteria, and the other one is an overall general food safety and sanitation video covering a number of issues in the kitchen related to the topic. I'm gonna go ahead and skip the environmental impact of pork production on the environment. I am only going to say that in some countries, they don't have pork production because pigs can be damaging to the ecosystem. Now, let's see what's in my boxes. I got 2 of them. Got 2 boxes. Let's start with the one that's wide open. Before I go any further, I quickly want to acknowledge what a privilege it is to be able to purchase a large amount of meat, just like I said in the beef video. It's a privilege because of access to a meat market like I have, because of the space required to store something like meat in bulk. Let's get into that second box. All right, I did the math, and just like with beef, you're paying for the hang weight, so you're paying for bones and things like that. On my receipt, hang weight was 94 pounds. So I paid for 94 pounds of a whole pig. What I ended up with is 58 pounds. So while it's $1.99 hang weight, I actually paid about $3.40 a pound for the pork. So like I said, when you get something that's not raised in a huge factory farm, it is more expensive. Let's check out my meat. All right, so this is the pile of my meat. I will pick some up and talk about them in just a second. I want to talk about a couple of things I got. And again, it all comes down to what you're picking. So I only ended up with 1 pork loin. So I'm not a huge fan of pork loin. And honestly, Costco sells pretty good pork. And if I want a giant piece of pork loin, I'll probably just get it from Costco. I'm having some real feelings about this meat purchase. Anyway, I got a number of packages of side pork. I'm gonna make my own sort of bacon with it. However, that it doesn't crisp up the same. I'll probably marinate it and then fry it or smoke it. I'm gonna do some smoking this summer, more than likely. So I got 10 packs of side pork, which now that I'm looking at it, I kind of wish I'd gotten half amount of that and maybe another tenderloin. It gets very confusing trying to figure out what combinations of stuff you want. I got 2 fresh ham roasts because I'm going to smoke my own hams, which I've done in the past. If you haven't watched those videos, there's a video on this channel, maybe I'll put it in the description, of brining a ham, and there's a video of smoking a ham. So I'm gonna probably do something similar with these. I got 1 pork shoulder roast, 21 pounds of ground beef, and I could have gotten it already seasoned, but I like to make my own pork sausage, like breakfast sausages and stuff. And so I just wanted it unseasoned. Usually you can get it seasoned. And then packages of pork chops. And I got 13 pork chops, all of but 1 packaged into 2 portions. You want to make sure you tell them how you want it packaged. Once I showed up, they had my pork chops packaged in 6. And that would have required me to thaw it and then refreeze. And it's not really something you want to do, to thaw out meat and then refreeze it. Every time you do that, it's gonna degrade the quality of the meat. So overall, like I said, I got 58 pounds of pork. I paid for 94 pounds hanging weight. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think it was that. I feel like, okay, it's the end of the video, so only the people who are really interested in what the box is here, or people who really like to watch my content. So based on my beef experience and this experience, yes, it's much better quality beef and pork. They live in a better living condition. However, telling somebody that it's $6 a pound or $1 something a pound or whatever, it's really a crapshoot, and it feels like there should be an easier way for them, a more transparent way for them to give you a price per pound. It's giving me a lot to think about. And actually what it's having me think is that if when I have the space, and I will someday, more to come on that. In culinary school, I learned how to take a large animal and cut it down. I've also dressed out whole deer, taken a whole deer and cut it into portions. And I was raised on a farm where it was done all the time. I think next time I'm just gonna say, give me that whole half of a pig. I want all of it. I will take everything and do what I want with the waste. Anyway, that's just me babbling. I don't even know, maybe this made it to the end. I don't know. I'm a little flustered by the fact that there was such a discrepancy. So, sorry. Anyway, unlike with the beef video, this one I didn't check out to see if there was a video regarding sort of what they throw away for meat and stuff like I did with the beef one. I had a really good resource for the beef one. Those guys probably also do a pork one, but I just haven't had time. So that's some information that may or may not be useful to you if you plan on buying pork from a local meat market or directly from a farmer. I would suggest, if you can, buy directly on farm from the farm if they have the certifications to sell off of their farm. I guess that's probably it. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel because I'm sure I'll be cooking some of this in some of my upcoming videos. I do have a number of them planned as long as I have some time for shooting and editing, which I have not had a lot of this year, so I apologize for the lack of content on this channel overall so far this year. I'm hoping to pick it up soon. Thank you for stopping by and checking out my channel, and as always, have a wonderful day. Mm.